Hello there, and welcome to TransforMATTive. I'm Matti McLean, and I'm joined today by Ren Ragsdale. How are you, Ren?
I am very good, thank you.
Welcome to this project and this crazy feat that we are trying to do as an ensemble. Normally, I'm more eloquent, but right now they're just not coming, but that's fine.
Fair. Happens to all of us.
Absolutely. Me especially, which is good. Uh, why don't we tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from?
Sure. So I'm from Tennessee. I lived there until I was about 18. On the west side of Tennessee, the side that's not very postcard E. The other side that everyone thinks of is the east side, more mountainous and Dolly Parton and all that fun stuff. And then I moved to North Carolina for school and lived there for about 5 years and lived in Raleigh for a little bit, then Charlotte. And then I moved to the city in July. So I'm
Wow,
brand new. Yeah,
fairly fresh to the city then.
very, very new. Yeah, but I love it so far. It's great. Really, really enjoy it.
There is something very fun and interesting about being a part of a big city, where
Yes.
especially coming in, you're just like, oh, it feels so big. And then you get there, and after a little while, you're just like, oh, it's not as big as I thought.
It's not. And it's very different from being a tourist here because I've grown up, I've visited the city many times, but once I moved here, I'm like, oh, this is like, you know, this is it's not as it's both not as glamorous and even more exciting than it was when I was younger and visiting.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
but yeah, so far so great. It's wonderful.
Well, it's great to have you. Uh, what is your theater or film background, or what is your performer background, I should say?
Sure. So I graduated with a degree in drama, but mostly a theater background, but I am in a direction towards film. So kind of a mix of both. Um, but yeah, I grew up doing theater and then started doing some short films, some student films in college and then on. So I like to keep both just because they're both very fun.
No, of course.
Yeah.
Well, the monologue that I had written for you is called 80s Kids Movies. Did you have any strong impressions about it or thoughts about it?
So the only thing that and it's not necessarily a concern or anything, but I am not of the 80s.
Mhm.
And so I was worried if there, I don't know, if it will be super clear to the audience or to whoever is listening that seeing me knowing I'm not an 80s kid, if it's still, the message still gets across and that's not a barrier of some sort.
Yeah, I think you're fine in the case that, like, the era you were born in should never translate on stage. There's always going to be that suspension of disbelief there.
Right.
The reason why I had written this for you is because you had the dry witticisms about you that I thought would play really well. And this is actually a monologue that I had kicking around in my head for a while, and you were the one who was just like, I feel like you could jive really well with the tone of this. So I don't
Okay.
think the age is necessarily prohibitive. I feel like we can pretend like I can pretend I grew up in the 70s. We as actors we can transpose ourselves into different eras. And so like the important thing is as long as you catch the references and you know what the movies are and how badly they scarred a generation or two or three or ongoing.
Yeah.
So
I did. I've seen like the Black Cauldron. I did grow up with those because those continued on. But like our tax, I wasn't familiar with that horse. But
yes.
after seeing it, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that was just part of television. Or was it a YouTube video or is it a movie or
Movie, yep.
the
Never Ending
movie?
Story
Okay,
came out in 80 something, 83 or 84. But
gotcha. Okay.
yeah, Never Ending Story is a big story all about adventure. Like 80s kids movies got real dark. Real
Yeah.
dark. Like even Labyrinth, I know that one kind of holds
I
up
think,
still.
yeah. Well,
But
I've seen that one portrayed as like a almost a Halloween film too,
yeah,
because yeah, interesting.
no. So like that's as long as you understand the tone and the references, like this monologue does require that little bit of homework just to kind of if you haven't seen Return to Oz, like I recommend checking it out because it is absolutely terrifying that this was allowed to be a kids movie, much less the sequel to Wizard of Oz,
Yeah,
which is, mind-blowing in its own way. But
absolutely.
yeah. Uh so if you haven't seen them yet, the ones I would recommend would be Labyrinth, Dark Crystal, Neverending Story, and Return to Oz, because those are the ones that even just watching like clips of them on YouTube should give you the idea. But, you know, the full experience is what will traumatize you for good. So
Okay, perfect.
that's what we're
And
aiming for.
I'm a little bit older, which is good, but I can't imagine watching that as like a 9-year-old and expecting Dorothy to come out in her little shoes and seeing something completely different. And
Yeah.
pup.
Return to Oz is especially brutal. So I'm just like,
Is
oh,
it I knew there was a remake with James, oh, I forget his name. It,
you thinking the James Franco one, Oz the Great and
yes, was
Powerful?
that a remake of the one you're talking about?
No, that was essentially an attempt to do a prequel of Oz that just
Oh,
didn't go the way we wanted to. But
fair
yeah,
enough. Okay.
after reading the monologue, uh, who do you feel like you're talking to in this monologue performance?
I felt like it took me a second, but I feel like I'm babysitting, and I was very confused at first because I wasn't sure if I was talking to like a I knew I was talking to a younger generation
Mhm.
and kind of telling old times of war and the scary things that I went through, and you don't realize how easy you have it. But yeah, I like to think of that I'm babysitting, and it's kind of a threat to show them the things that were fun movies for me.
Absolutely. This one I
Yeah.
feel like has a bit more of a strong point of view with the character to be like, yeah, this I feel like is very specifically like I will torment you with these movies because this is what tormented us. So it's like passing the generational scars on to the next generation, doing our part,
Yes.
paying it
Well,
forward, if you
I'm
will.
educated.
So
Exactly.
yeah. Would you like to dive in?
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Don't make me get it. I'll make you watch it. Fine. You insist on acting out the whole time. I'm going to make you watch the kids' movies we grew up with. You don't think I'm serious? We didn't fuck around. These movies scarred our entire generation. Why do you think we're all so jaded? Blame our tax. These movies are the reason we are the way we are. Let's break it down. We were subjected to mental experimentation that was designed to terrify us. The filmmakers knew what they were doing. They were ruthless, they were merciless. We saw the things that mattered most to us stripped away and killed. Love your parents? Too bad, they're nowhere to be seen. Loved stuffed animals and warm fuzzies? Here's skeletal bird demons and a small creature getting their life force sucked out of them. Even Oz wasn't safe. When we returned there, it was a wasteland with no music and terrifying steel puppets on wheels. You think movies are scary today with their CGI? We had puppets. They existed in a physical form, and you knew that somewhere out there they were waiting. You kids today have it easy. You grew up with Disney after it got its shit together. We got Black Cauldron, Great Mouse Detective, and the saddest movie about a fox and a hound ever made, and that was it. The G rating has come to represent something fluffy and safe, but back then it was VHS roulette. Would this be a Care Bear good time piece or the thing that would give you nightmares for another month? Some of us never recovered. Why else would our entire generation be so motivated for change? I mean, apart from all the political and social stuff, we don't want what happened to us to happen to any generation ever again. We arose to the studios and said, enough. Never again shall we have our brothers stolen in the night by the world's bulgiest tights. Never again shall we ruminate on the existential dread of the nothing. You know the rules. You misbehave, you get the 80s kids movies. This is happening. So, really, the only thing left to do is pick your trauma.
Very nice. Really great energy. I love your tone. I think that it works really well for the piece. I do want to challenge you on something.
Sure.
I feel like you have some really great frustration that kind of emerges as you go through. I think you can start this so much more intense. Almost
Okay.
like it's been like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Don't make me get it.
Gotcha. Okay.
Coming at it with that kind of boom energy, I think will go a long way. And I think it's a lot of fun, especially for you to have that whole you get to have a lot more fun that way because you're starting off with a really strong energy. And yeah, you have a really good handle on a lot of it. Don't be afraid to just take that frustration up to the beginning. Because then at the point where you're just like, it starts there, it starts very high, and then it kind of turns into, are you, we didn't fuck, like, this was something, this scarred our entire generation. And then you're learning them. And then almost as it kind of goes on, uh, you almost go into like a 70s war vet situation where just like some of us never recovered.
I can
Yeah,
still
like,
see it now.
yeah, shaky hands with the cigarette.
Yeah. My
Why else
bad.
would our generation be? It's,
Okay, so from
yeah,
the beginning, it's like last straw. This is it. I'm pulling out the
yeah,
big gun.
yeah.
Okay.
Last straw, and then you're letting them know. It's just like, no, we're serious. This is what happened. This is happening. This is what it was. And then as it goes through, you get more like you kind of have those peaks and valleys, which you're finding. And I know that once you get this off book, you'll have even more, which is great. And I'm very excited to see what happens. Um, But it's almost like there's resentment there as well. It's just like, you kids today have it easy. You grew up
Mhm.
with Disney after it got its shit together.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I
Finding
like the I
those,
like the war vet picture.
yes. And finding those little moments you can really hit will go a long way to really bringing this, like, it's already living. This will just bring it fully alive and make it
Right.
very intense. And yeah, you got a lot to play with here, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I'm very excited. This one's
Yeah.
a really fun one.
Uh, my only specific notes that I would like to see personally is just like, uh, when you're talking about Oz, it's a wasteland with no music and terrifying steel puppets on wheels. Like, you can really emphasize that part.
Mhm.
And don't be
Okay.
afraid to breathe in between the line, like breathe in between the lines with the moments you need it. Anytime your emotion shifts, that can usually be a good point to be like, on wheels. You think kids movies are scary today with their CGI? We had puppets. Like, those moments
Breathing
you can
kind of takes it a different
breathe.
direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Gotcha.
always tell people just like, don't be afraid to elongate, don't be afraid to make people wait for you. Because in these situations, like, if you know what you're saying and you're having fun with it, it'll really come alive.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as like actors, we have this like tendency to just get in and get out from all the times of auditioning and being cut off and everything. So
Yeah.
that's always something we're working against.
I mean, here it's kind of nice because you have something not only that you can play with and develop and really find your own voice in, but you also have permission to go bigger and take your time. We have 2 hours on stage for 15 monologues and a 15 in an intermission. Like, you got time. This is all good. You can relax into it. You can yell. You can, yeah, it's going to be fun. And there's going to be a lot there that you can really sink your teeth into and enjoy.
Perfect. Great. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing these movies because hearing about them is doesn't do it justice. I need to see Artax in the flesh.
Yeah. That is, so in Neverending Story, they're being encroached upon by something called the Nothing. So
Okay.
that's a big part of it. But also the world's bulgiest tights is Labyrinth. And that movie is
That
renowned for David Bowie's package that's just fully on display the entire movie. It's David Bowie, so like sexual awakening 101 for
right.
many people. But
Sure.
yeah.
Is that have anything to do with Peter Pan, or am I thinking of a completely different thing?
I don't think
Is there
Peter
a
Pan
Peter
had
Pan movie
something.
that was a really bad remake or something? I thought that was a Peter Pan reference, and I
There's
thought
the
there was a
there's
live
the one
action.
from 2003,
Maybe that's what
and
I'm
then there
thinking.
was the Peter Pan with Mary Lou, oh, Mary some, the one who used to like fly on the musical version where she used to fly around in the audience. And
Right.
yeah.
There was one live action, maybe it is from my generation, where there was a like Oh, there was like a Men in Tights movie or something. Something like that where it was just bizarre costuming.
Yeah, plenty of options.
Yeah.
The only other one I can think of is Pan with Hugh Jackman.
Could have been that, yeah.
Yeah,
Could have
that was the
been.
weird musical one that had like Nirvana overtones. And how old are you, by the way? Just to
I'm 24.
okay, yeah. So
So, but
this is a
I
little before your time,
it
and by
is,
that
but
I mean by
a
like
lot of
12
these,
years.
like I had my babysitters played like these older movies. So they did come over to us, but not some of these are a little bit more obscure for my generation. But I did, yeah, I remember all the remakes of everything, but I never got
Yes.
and I did have VHS and I do remember roulette and honestly giving up because I didn't want to rewind the tapes. So
Yeah,
never,
that's a thing.
yeah. Or just watching the last 30 minutes because that's as far as I felt like going back. So
Fair enough.
that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, knowing that, I think you have a great energy for this. I hope you have a lot of fun with it. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what you do.
Awesome. Yeah, me too. This is fun.
We might have a second rehearsal later next week once everyone's like off book and kind of a little bit more familiar. So I'll leave that open to everybody if they want it. I'm happy to do it, but if they don't, then we'll just kind of move on. But yeah.
Perfect.
For the people listening at home, if anyone still is, would you like to plug anything, social media or anything upcoming?
Yeah, my social media is at Ren Ragsdale on Instagram and Facebook. Um, I I will be in a show on next next Friday, next weekend, with Sketch of New York. So that'll be running the whole weekend, 9:30 on Friday and Saturday and 4:30 on Sunday at the Producers Club in Hell's Kitchen. That one's a
Cool.
really fun project. It's just a bunch of sketches about living in New York and being an artist and all that fun stuff. So that's coming up. But other than that, super excited for all these things and excited to be in New York.
Yeah, I'm very happy to have you on the team. I'm not in New York, so you're getting me as the import, which is fine.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun,
Awesome.
and we'll get them to follow you. And anything else you want to plug, just let us know.
Sure. Sounds good.
All right.